Morning, Rick. This is Wayne Magnus.
Okay, Wayne, right on. That is awesome. Now I can put it on a big screen here. Okay, this is Rick the Liberty coming to you from CPSEC here in Beauval. And we're broadcasting on CIPI Facebook. We're also broadcasting on YouTube on the CIPI radio subscription. And we're using the Zoom platform to bring people into our communities from different parts of the treaty area. We live in the north here, in the northern half of the province, and we span across Treaty 8. We go to Treaty 10. We got Treaty 6 adhesion, Treaty 6, and Treaty 5. And traditionally, the river gatherings were to gather people on issues of resource management and anything with economic or social issues that are affecting people in northern Saskatchewan, but it was a collective effort between federal and provincial jurisdictions to
Yeah,
have a
unmuted.
dialogue amongst on reserve
Now
and
let me see if I can get.
people are just logging on, so I'll just mute everybody else for now. In the meantime, we're going to start with an opening prayer. So this river gathering this is our second day. We had an event started yesterday, and we'll continue this for 2 more days until Thursday. So this is an opportunity to hear from people from all walks of life, from all, doesn't matter what platform you're in or what community you're in. Our focus has been on community health and community safety. Community safety is as a result of our I guess recovering from our pandemic issues, the addictions, mental health. A lot of these issues were showed our vulnerabilities. So that's what we're discussing on how we can navigate our youth to a good life into the future, but to warn them about the dangers that are here. But also dealing with any barriers we're having with our communities on the bureaucracies of governments or these are issues under the health authority. We had major changes from local regional health authorities to one major health authority in this province. So these are policies that possibly people want to talk about. So today we're joined with former Chief Wayne Sumaganis. Wayne, kipista in. Yeah, thanks, Wayne, for joining us. I know you're on the road, but we always open up with a prayer, and we thank you for the support you gave us during the pandemic years. We should say the years have passed by now, but definitely your personal, your spiritual support, and your perspective on community development and capacity building for our communities have been very important, especially our sovereign right and our treaty obligations and treaty rights that flow from that. So Wayne, if you don't mind, if it is all possible that you could say a prayer,
Pues, ya. Uganda ya. Kanana suma no go tau no go iska migwa matso ne migwa. Kak yogi go no tska mam skutama. Pagtamag nagusia mitet. Papa kipo up sis pogas go skate magi go get them no go one ha. Those are the things today we're going to ask for prayers from the Creator. We'll give thanks for having a day to talk with each other, to meet and sit together. And we'll ask for the help from the Creator because of how much we have lost and how little we know as individuals, but collectively that we can put together. Because we all know we've lost so many of our elders. That's a lot of knowledge to lose. And that loss hasn't always been because of natural causes, but because of the assimilation practices of the Canadian government. But we'll ask for good things from the Creator. Ako tao ino. Naskom ta simi nakatakis ka miya. Ano naskom mo ano ako umaga nag-iwitap magkikitaw na mga siya. Dan siya giswitchito at dan siya giswiyasta mo Ikskon watsko yun. Tuskaim dan. Teniga ni gawi petakutit. Kagwaso na mo ako ka magagisa-gisa sa tamat. Naway o tenwa ako magandan. Speak hamas na hamya sa tamaon. No tao inan witchin na ni gawi gatskon skisya. Igigita sa tama, kaya ka nakatama, kaya katasoy ko asonya. Stegi ko yung kwatagi ko na tawinan, magatsipagwan at tamat na agagtamag na ya. Kasoy miya, agawiti hiya, itakapungwitap nito. Miyo, asiki ko yung kapasigon na ba. Kami na miyo, yaon tutamagis na mo, pagaw ya ko, tagawi pikskit, pagaw ya kay swa ko, maawasa ka. Skate din, stay ko, kwatagi, stay ko, tamay ko. Timagnonan, eksewatsik tataska ka nawihinan natska gisiga sa isang tatamata naskomtenan. Ekse. Hello, Rick. Did you lose me?
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. I was a
All right.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say thank you, Chief, and I wanted to give you an opportunity if there's any words of support or wisdom that you'd like to share with us as we prepare as we prepare this journey for our young children that are coming, the ones that we don't even know that are coming, but they're our relatives, and we have to prepare a good journey for them. So, from your view, your experience as a leader, what you see today in our communities, what kind of words would you like to share today?
Well, I go to a lot of meetings, and I'm very lucky to be able to go to a lot of meetings. But I'm also very lucky that I was raised by our elders. Kagi humyan, kagi musumyan, kagi opigit. Kagi simon, kagi aso na mautik, pikskon, tapoge tigeon. Ikomi nagix na mautik, tansa mame gisa sutama, kagi ta sutama, treaty rights, kaimutame. All that knowledge, all the things that they have taught me, that all comes from the elders. This is not my view of everything. I'm just repeating what they taught us. And that's our old way of helping each other, passing that knowledge along, that you don't hold it and it ends with you. And that's the main thing that I see because of residential school, because of assimilation, because of homelessness, even on our very own reserves, our own First Nations, even though a lot of our nations are surrounded by timber and other natural resources, we don't have access to those resources. Somebody else has more right to them than we do because of misinterpretation of law. And I see the young people in our communities lost no purpose, not knowing their worth. And that's why we struggle so much, because of everything that we have lost. And I see that even in our leadership, especially in our leadership where we should be strong, our young leaders don't have that knowledge either. Our young leaders don't have their language, their spirituality, their treaty history. They don't even have their family history. So if you're that lost, how can you expect to lead your community to a better place? So there's a struggle from top to bottom in First Nation country because of assimilation, because of how the white man has used their education to mislead us. But we know all that. We have to quit waiting for somebody to get us back on the right path. We have to take ourselves there. There's nothing stopping us from going back to what the Creator gave us. The policies we know are wrong, legislation is wrong. Well, we know it's wrong. Why do we continue with following those policies and legislation? You talk about health. Just a little while ago, there was an announcement in the news. The federal government gave the provincial government of Saskatchewan an extra $560 million for health purposes. They came down to Regina to do that. But where are our people in that picture? First Nations have a treaty right to health. And we had no leadership saying, where's our portion? We deserve to be able to look after ourselves. That was an inherent right. Kutawi no gimigwa na tawiwa when maskigia gimigwa. Seotsu ne gimigwa. Moigigo kito tiktimax no mopo ginakatokatswa. We had everything given to us by the Creator. We had knowledge, we had plants, we had medicines, we had teachings, and we had purpose, and we had a right. Today, we allow those things to be run over and casted aside because we follow policy and legislation. I go to a lot of ceremonies, and people laugh when I say this. When we are in the ceremony and we ask the grandfathers for help, there's no such a thing as Robert's Rules of Orders in there. There's no such a thing as Google in there. There's sacredness in there. There's honesty. There's compassion. There's love in there. These are things that we still have. We just have to take ourselves back there. It's just going to take a lot of determination and a lot of unity for us to get back there. And we can't blame other people for that. It's just we have to take back control of ourselves, our lives, everything. That'll be my opening comments because there's so much to say, but I could talk all day, but you guys would fall asleep or run out of minutes. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Wayne Tinimiasin. So that's a good perspective. And those treaty obligations, and we're learning about those as well as we find our way through the Métis, under Section 35, the Inuit, the Métis, and First Nations are all constitutionally recognized. But since the Daniels decision, we have a treaty-making right with the Métis perspective. So this is an opportunity to come together, to understand our positionings in our country, but also the treaty relations that we should be respecting, even amongst our own nations. So thank you, Wayne. But I see Lloyd Yu has joined us. It looks like Lloyd si magaputsi tamantos tamagin. No, it looks like he's driving, so that's an opportunity. He might join us in a little while. We also have Vince has joined us from Pine House. I know this is simulcast with CIPI Radio here is partnering with CILX in Alacross and also CFNK in Pine House. So Vince, through the website, I guess bringing people in. So Vince, if you don't mind having a word, if you unmute yourself, you'll have the microphone.
Yeah, tamano in Tohtamagan, Rick, but all over Turtle Island in Tohtago Nomigo, United States, I can just see my metrics right now. On a given time, right now, about 5,000 people in Tohtago na online across Canada. So you're spreading the word. This is a good thing. For now, I'm going to shut up. However, we can cooperate to spread the word. Rick, we're always here.
Oh, thank you, Vince. Well, right next after that is Joseph Foray. Didn't Joseph from Manitoba has joined us? He was willing to share a story. I don't know if you're ready, Joseph, to do that right now, or you need some prep time, but welcome aboard. Joseph Foray is, I think it's in Winnipeg right now. You're located in Winnipeg, right?
Yeah, I'm located in Winnipeg, but I grew up in the Paw. My family's from Sandy Bay. No, it's been kind of a busy day today. I've been doing interviews. Manitoba released its numbers of drug-related deaths here in Manitoba, and they superseded last year's numbers for some of you that weren't here yesterday. I remember an incident in Nepal back in April where there was a major event with tainted drugs, sending a number of people to the hospital, and one young man died. That young man was my son. And when we talk about the opioid crisis or these deaths that are occurring in our communities, we talk a lot about addiction, but my son wasn't an addict. And he got convinced to try something one night, and it was a tainted drug that was laced with fentanyl. And a number of people fell victim to that in Nepal that weekend. And we've started a campaign trying to bring a message to our youth and our young people about the dangers surrounding recreational drug use, because it's just not the addict that's dying. And maybe a little later, if you like, I could show you a little video of a march that we did here in Winnipeg last June to bring awareness to it. Yeah, it's been a tough day. Having to relive. It'll be 1 year in April that we lost him, and Rika's family and asked me to come on board because I just don't think this is a Manitoba number. I know Saskatchewan released their numbers not too long ago, and again, you guys are setting record numbers in drug-related deaths, and I think it's a message that's worth sharing. And we hope that the No Thanks, I'm Good campaign would be that message that we could send to the youth. I mean, if you got time now, I mean, it's about a 6-minute video on that march. If you guys would like to see it, I could share my screen.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll verify. I think Lloyd was pulling up. Lloyd, you
yeah, go ahead with everybody else, and you can come
give
back.
you time to queue it up. Yep. Okay. Lloyd, danse, kapihtin, kapihtawan. You big screen me, what's?
Yeah, I can you hear me, Rick?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'm just joining in. I'm on the road again. No, I've been involved in well, as most people know, I'm a retired police officer with the RCMP, and I've been involved with security since the pandemic, and I was kind of the lead role when we had all them check stops throughout the west side of our community and stuff. We have started a company again in regards to, but maybe I won't touch on that right now. I just want to touch on all the stuff that's happening right now out there. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, especially at night, and the social issues that we have in each community. It's overwhelming. How I see it personally, and I'll say it personally, I see these problems that we have in our small towns. It's big city problems coming to our communities. Before it was the cities that had all the drug problems and all the criminal stuff happening, and now it's coming to all our small little towns, and the police are overwhelmed. To me, that's how I see it, and the leaders are overwhelmed. Nobody was prepared for what was coming here, and it's on us. I can see it getting worse all the time. It's not going to get any better unless we start acting on it, and we got to start talking and finding the solution. How do we do it? Like right now, I'm employed. I work on 3 reserves. We're actually doing security and keeping the peace and keeping people calm in the communities. We had one for about a year now, and we just started on another 2, and one more as of tomorrow. Because they see the leaderships in our area are seeing the difference we're making out there. So, but I won't touch on that until later on. I'm just seeing. I work night shifts most of the time, and I see the what's happening at nights, and even when I was a police officer, I seen it was a different world at night. When the good people go to bed, there's other people waking up, and you know. And I also want to touch on this this I shouldn't say overall the justice system. That's failing, but more so, I see that failing in the correctional system. I see that as a huge problem. For an example, you can take a young man, he gets into trouble when he's drinking and stuff, maybe gets out of hand, or a young girl, and they end up in a provincial correctional center, and once they walk into that provincial correctional center, it's a correctional, and I want to emphasize that correctional. You know, they walk in there. Most times they don't have a choice but to join a gang for their own protection in there. And once they join the gang, they get initiated and all the stuff, and they join a gang. It seems like they get educated how to be a better criminals to come out to our small communities. And then when they do come home, they start initiating their own little buddies and their families and stuff. And we have these little chapters everywhere now. And it's just imagine one day when they get well organized, wow, we're going to be in real trouble here. That's my fear. My fear for maybe it's here already. It's just going to get worse if we don't do something. And amongst ourselves, if we can come up with something, that'd be so awesome. I see the issues that we have on the west side. The pandemic showed us a lot of stuff that we were so depending on the outside world, and so on. But right now, Rick, I'll just shut up. I'll just keep on driving and listening to your program, and if anybody has or any questions for me, I can certainly answer. You know. Thank you.
Oh, that is awesome. Awesome perspective. That an opportunity for the work that you're doing to help the communities that are in crisis mode. I know we've had state of emergencies in our communities in the north, and we also have an opportunity, I guess. This is the dialogue that we want to unify our efforts between on-reserve and off-reserve efforts. We want to make sure that our communities can be safe and safe to work in, safe to live in, and the work that you're doing is commendable, Lloyd, and all the employees that you have. But this is a major topic of discussion for us. If you guys agree, I guess, in terms of an opportunity, there's an opportunity to respond not only on YouTube. You can put comments on the YouTube portion of this program, but also on Facebook. If you can respond, in any way, if you want to reach out and say a few words or share a story, that's definitely what the river gathering, virtual river gathering, that we're giving an opportunity with here at this moment. So thanks, Lloyd. We have Robin Hill has joined us from Northern Labrador, and Robin, I'm going to ask you to come in a bit, and you see the level of discussion, and you also shared a story of the issues of the drugs are not immune to our communities in northern Saskatchewan, but the same issue seems to be permeating in your neck of the woods as well, in Labrador. So if Robin, if you want to say a few words on that, we'll turn the mic over to you. You just got to unmute your... Oh, he's getting advice on this, technical advice. There's an unmute button on the bottom left corner of the
Okay,
screen.
can you hear me now?
There you go, Robin. Yeah, we got you.
On the phone, I have Peter Panashwe, who is an Indigenous person from Sheshaji in Labrador, and he was a former member of Parliament, former cabinet minister, and you want me to tell you about the news story today, Peter? Okay, he was on the news today because a drug dealer had his son sign his son's house over to him, and the police were not doing anything. So Peter went to the drug dealer and said, I'm going to smash the windows in your car in. And so the drug dealer called the police, and Peter did go ahead and smash the windows of a car in, and he was arrested. Now, he was interviewed by CBC Radio Labrador Morning this morning, or yesterday morning, and he was bringing to attention the fact that if he did that, right away the police are on the scene. They're arresting him. But the fellow who took his son's house is a drug dealer, and the police, he can do whatever he's doing with immunity almost. Like the process goes on, and there's no police intervention, if you like, and so I mean, Peter has been a strong leader in the community, not only in Labrador but nationally. Would you like to say a few words, Pete?
Thank you, Robin. I just thought Robin just asked me to connect with you. I have very little knowledge of what's happening in your area, other than the fact that I heard a former chief talking about the meetings that he's having and the work that he's doing, and which is good for his cause, and I'm sure it's good for his community. And we are involved in this way of fighting drugs, and it's not light drugs. These are heavy drugs like cocaine, and it's a big problem in our community. And so I took a stand against a drug dealer, and I got arrested. And so it's now the people are talking about it in Labrador. And it's been amazing what's been happening, with all the phone calls that I've received, people supporting me and people standing with me, and a lot of people say that they are with me, but they can't come out because they're afraid of what the drug dealers will do to them and their families. And so there's always a concern for that because there's so much violence involved in drug trafficking. And so a lot of people are concerned for that. And so I've already made contact with a lawyer, and the lawyer is going to a very good lawyer in Newfoundland, a very aggressive lawyer, and so we're going to fight this case. But we're going to subpoena a whole bunch of people that were involved with this court case. So it's going to be a much bigger court case than people think. People think it's just going to be breaking a property, but it's going to be a lot bigger than that. So anyway, I appreciate the invitation to say a few words, and I hope that you will follow the story. And I know that right across the country, particularly in the north, there's a lot of drug problem, cocaine, meth. In some communities, for example, and to the south of us, a lot of people are having problems with speed, and young people are just going to the bone because they're not eating and just taking speed. So it's a big problem everywhere, and let's just take my community of 2,000. Half of that community is under 20, which means that the young people are heavily into cocaine and stealing from their parents and selling their clothes or tools. And that's a very big problem. And I think all parents are very frustrated with what's going on. I know a lot of parents are very frustrated. They just don't know what to do. and the police are not helping. The police are just watching what's going on. And every time you ask them, they say, well, they have constitutional rights. You just can't barge into their house. And everyone knows, and they also know that they sell drugs. So obviously, they keep saying that they want to get the big fish. Well, the big fish are not the problem. It's the little fish that are a problem in the communities, and that's what they should be going after. I don't know if they can be able to, capture the big fish, because the big fish are very professional. They know what they're doing, and they're not going to be exposing themselves. That's why I think something needs to be done. The laws need to be changed or a different strategy needs to be made by the police to focus on the little fish, and rather than and the other thing that obviously that needs to be explored is that if the laws are not working for the police to do the crime, then the laws need to be changed. Because the laws are supposed to work for the people of Canada, and they're not meant to work for the criminals in the drug trade. And so there's something not right, and that needs to be fixed. And we need to talk about it more. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Peter. I guess, taking the charge in your way, it's you're standing up. It's like a warrior. You're standing up for your people. So thank you very much for that effort, and to make the bigger news off of it. That is how you're saying it. I think that's championing a position for all our small villages. We are facing the same challenges, a small community to the big, as we talked about earlier. The big city problems are here, and how we can navigate our children safely through that. That's our biggest challenge we have. I have a hand up from Joseph Fourier. Robin, if you don't mind, I'll take his call here. So Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just listening to the last speaker there about the laws, and how it is frustrating. In my son's death, the people that took my son out that night didn't want to give up who they bought the drugs from, and so there was no accountability. And we're looking at, well, here in Manitoba. Through the foundation that I've created, the Singing Red Bear Foundation, is to try and to lobby now to have some of those laws changes. We talked about this, Rick, when we talked on your radio program or your television program. There needs to start being accountability in the passing of these drugs. And you're right, we focus a lot on the big fish, and it's the ones that are actually the smaller ones that are in the community selling it that need to be addressed, because without them, the big fish can't have the product out there in the community. One of the things that I'm hoping that we can do over time is, get that law changed with the passing of a noxious substance. And I think it's criminal section 245, I could be wrong, where it states, that you have to have knowingly and have intent to harm. And basically what Harlan's Law, I call it Harlan's Law, is we're going to try and draft something up and get the community to help me with this, it doesn't matter if I'm your friend or not. If I score some drugs, or if I have some drugs and I offer you some drugs, and even if you accept to take them and you die from them, then I should be held accountable for that death. And that's not happening right now. What's happening is the people are not being accountable. We had 445 deaths in Manitoba. These numbers just came out, and nobody's been accountable for any of those deaths. So we're hoping that Harlan's Law would give the RCMP that tool to get that first step on the ladder up. Because I'll tell you, if that was me and I gave somebody a drug and they died, and then all of a sudden I'm held accountable for that death, well, I'm going to say, you know what? No, I bought it from this guy. And so the buyer now is immune, so he doesn't have to give up the drug dealer. And I think that's one of the missing steps that we have in trying to protect our communities, is that the wrong people are being protected. And So this is something that, which is in its infancy. We're trying to draft it up, and go from there. But I totally agree that, the laws need to change because our policymakers make the laws, our law enforcement enforce those policies, but it's grassroots that are going to make those changes. So I just wanted to add that in there. It really struck me that what he was talking about.
Yeah. Just can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay, just one point, one other point. I have I have 4 children, and they're all adults. 3 of them are into cocaine, and 2 of them are in recovery. So that means 1 is still doing cocaine, and the other one is okay. So that means 3 out of 4 are struggling with cocaine. And I have 10 grandchildren. If you look at the stats of what with my children, then my grandchildren, as they come of age, well, 8 of them will be doing cocaine and 2 will be okay, and that's not good. So you can see the problem that we're facing down the road if we can't get a handle on the drugs, particularly I call these happy drugs because it makes them happy, right? But it just leads to more depression down the road as they come off those drugs, and there's a lot of suicides associated with it too. So I think you have to look at it from that context as well. So if we think we have a problem now, just wait 10 years, with the problems that we're going to have in our community, because all of these young people are going to grow up and have children, and then their children are going to. I mean, the multiplication is it's incredible, the problem that we're going to have. And the police, or in this case, I guess governments represented by the police, are not really doing anything about it. They're just watching it from afar. They, if you break a car, they come and arrest you. If you, drink and drive, you come and arrest you, but not drugs. You can get away with drugs. I just don't get it. Something needs to happen, and it's got to happen. The voices got to come from the national from the national group, from the foundation group, I should say, like nationally. That's where the voices should come from. So I'll stop there.
No, thanks for sharing your story, Peter. And it's heartbreaking to hear what your family's experiencing. And we want to help in any way we can support each other. So this is breaking news for us, what's happening with you personally there. So this is an awesome way for us to share our communities, how it's in our communities. It's in the north. It's in the small communities. It's in the isolated communities. So in any way we can find solution out of this, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
If you're ready, I could probably try and share this video now.
Okay. Let's flip over to a share screen with
Juliana.
Share screen and we'll see what happens. It's technology.
I'll send you.
I'm kind of like Robin here. I'm just learning. So does everybody see that?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got to go pick up my wife. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's later here in Labrador.
Okay. So
Watch it.
I'm a filmmaker. So when we had this event, I knew the media was going to cover it, but as a filmmaker, I wanted to try and control the narrative. And so I had my team, cover the event and basically just ask the participants, why this was important to them. This was a march that was held in Winnipeg, June 25th of 2023. And it was the start of a movement that I've created as a way to hopefully try and make some change. I hope you guys can hear it.
Yeah, let her roll.
Yep.
Okay, it's rolling up, produced by Joseph Fourier and
Yep.
directed.
Yep.
And I'll just read the notation. On a national average, over 22 people a day die from opioids. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death. and more than half of the victims weren't expecting it. Fentanyl
2 months
poison.
ago, my son Harlan was a victim of fentanyl poisoning. He was a good man. We lost a good man that day. I didn't want him to just be another statistic.
That drum song is asking Creator to bless us and to be with us during our time here. We're gathered here for a very important purpose that affects the lives of our people, of our friends and our families. The beginning of something beautiful that needs to be heard by the people, by all our relatives that are affected.
I don't want to do this. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be without my son. And I'm so angry that this is the only place where I can put my anger and create some change so that hopefully that no other parent, brother, or sister has to feel this.
We want to target our youth because they are the next generation. They are our next up and coming leaders, and we want to make sure that they have strong peer circles, strong supports, so that they have the ability to comfortably say, no thanks, I'm good.
A lot of people don't know what they're getting into, and it only takes one time.
Drugs have no discrimination against any people.
It is important because fentanyl is killing a lot of our people on the streets, and it's the #1 killer right now out there.
This is important to us because we lost a lot of we lost some friends that we care about and that are our family.
One of the things that I want people to be aware of is that it's just as easy to say no that it is for yes.
My name is Nicole Lavoisier, and I was Harlan's sister. I'm praying that each and every one of us who have lost someone to this devastating tragedy, and to give our hearts strength so that we may march and walk throughout our life's journey, so that we may help others make that choice to feel confident with saying these simple, most polite words. And that's no thanks, I'm good.
I want to see change. You know, we stand in front of this building today and we expect them to legislate laws that will help protect us. You know, we entrust them with the things and the decisions that they make. But I'm telling you, they can't make those changes without us. They can't solve this problem without us. You know, we look to the police who escorted us today, and I thank them very much for that, for keeping us safe on the road as we walked here. But they can't fix this problem for us. We have to. So I'm telling communities all across the country to start rising up, have these walks of their own, teach their children to say, no thanks, I'm good. There is a gap between the victim and the dealer. We have people freely sharing recreational drugs thinking that they're going to have a good time and die. These are some of the things that I want to talk about. And I really thank you for your support and showing up. Yes, I'm angry. I'm furious that my son died this way. Anger is made to motivate you to create a change in what you're angry about. And I'm angry at the way that fentanyl is running wild in our streets, killing our youth, and nobody's saying nothing about it. Well, Harlan was a very polite man, not a malicious bone in his body. And just saying, no thanks, I'm good, is polite, no thanks. And empowering, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good without that.
Enough is enough. Let's empower our youth. Just say, no thanks, I'm good. And special
So
thanks
that
to all the
was,
support.
a video that we were produced and through the help of MKO here in Manitoba, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. And what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 months is we've been going community to community to community to present No Thanks, I'm Good to the youth, to the high school students, and talking about it. One of the things that I think is important is that we need to start having a dialogue with our youth. We need to start, listening to them. It was unbelievable, the 10 communities that we've been in so far, as far north as Lac Brochet, how they don't want this in their community. I had in Cross Lake, a youth tell me, like, he gave me the exact drug dealer's house. Can you go tell them to stop selling drugs? Because my mom spends all their money there and we have nothing to eat. But as we get them, as we go forward and try and get them to say these 4 simple words, we have to offer that support at the same time. We have to show that we support them in the decisions. And that's why I ask communities, have these marches, show the community that enough is enough. Yes, it's scary when we're going up against this echelons of drug dealers within the community. But, if we don't, then we're going to lose our young ones. It's a fight. And it's one that we can win, but we have to be united in it as a community. It just can't be one person. Like the one gentleman said, they're all with him, but they can't say anything because they're afraid. And then, to me, it's time to stop being afraid, because that fear will kill our children. And so, I mean, I'm out there. I'm hitting the streets. I'm talking with politicians. I'm doing whatever I can to try and get this message out there to our young people. And I will go wherever I'm invited. You saw the T-shirts there. We have T-shirts, we have logos, we have fridge magnets for the kids to put in their lockers. We have posters. We're designing billboards because the messaging has to change. We cannot be of the old adage anymore that silence is going to make everything better. We need to become boisterous, and we need to stand together. We're marking September 13th as our day of taking back our communities, as a National Fentanyl Poisonous and Awareness Day. So I'm inviting communities, to have those rallies and have those marches along with us, as we try and do what we can. It's too late for my son. I can't bring him back no matter what I do. But if I can prevent one other family from feeling what I've had to feel for the last year, then I will do everything that I can in my power to do that. Thank you for letting me share that. You guys have any questions, I'll leave my contact in there. I thank you, Rick, for giving me this opportunity once again to share, because for me, it's healing. I heal, I get a chance to share what I know. I'm a recovering addict. I suffered with addiction for 40 years of my life. I'm 5 years in recovery from a serious heroin addiction. I know trauma, and I know what trauma did to me, and I know what I did to have to heal from that trauma. And it was land-based, it was ceremonies, it was getting back to who I was as an Indigenous person. And we need to bring that back, for our young people. And just thank you for giving me this little soapbox for right now. So that's all I wanted to share. That's what we do. That's what I do. And if you want us in your community, just reach out and we'll try our best to get there.
No thanks, I'm good.
No thanks, I'm good.
Right on, Joe. So if you can join us at any time, we got 2 more days, like we said. We thank you for your time, but your messaging and your story is it's leaving an impact. Our people are feeling this, and same thing with Peter and his family in Northern Labrador. Like to hear perspectives from outside our communities, we're not alone. But thank you very much again. Yesterday we had our broadcast, and Max Morin from Alacross was trying to log on, and we couldn't get him on. But hopefully, Max, is that your iPhone? We got you connected on your iPhone. If you can unmute yourself, we'll give you the mic. Max's iPhone. I think that's, if you can unmute yourself, we can get you on. Okay, as Max tries to figure out that side, we're joined by our Area 3 representative here from the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. Tex has joined us. Tex, we don't do the big screen here. You go.
Yeah, that's it.
Right on. Yeah, we were just trying to get Max's connection might not be on right now, but go ahead, big screen. Thanks for someone.
Okay, well, that's it. And being on the road a lot, just going to meetings regarding different things, and I understand what most of the people are saying, I guess, because I went through a lot of addictions since then in my life, because 35 of my life I was into drugs, and I went into the hard stuff 18 years ago, I guess, and I went into 11 treatment centers to try and get my tools, but the most important thing was missing is the cultural part and the language, because I had left it at 13. I chose sports, the aggression, to take the aggression out on sports, but the culture and language was always missing every time. Every time I went back again, we didn't have the support. We had the support of rehab centers, detox centers, but the cultural component was always missing. Sometimes it was there. I know Donald and them used to have it, Donald Fable, Philip DeRocher, different people used to try to implement it. But the government would always stop him to go any further, to help people, especially in trying to fix up your own life, trying to get your identity, because the identity was missing from my life. The identity was in sports and drugs and alcohol, trying to fit in, trying to fix my life from shame, because it wasn't all about drugs and alcohol, because there was a shame when I was growing up for 13 years of my life. I didn't look good to people, so I would be called ugly. And I had brothers too that were crippled, that couldn't walk, talk, or eat, were called demons. So imagine that terror that I had for 5 years. But I was running on the edge one day. I had to make a choice between life and death. I chose death, but all of a sudden something came over me that day. And to this day, I still do the same thing. I still pray. And that was 18 years ago. I changed my life. And then I started going out. I started on a treatment center again, outpatient treatment center. They didn't want to let me in for a while, for 2 weeks, because I wasn't, they don't think that I would make it. So I worked hard. I guess I'm glad that nothing happened within the 2 weeks. So when they accepted me, everything started changing. I started changing, and then they had a women's violence group that went around for about a year. Marie Fable, Sandra Morin, and certain other women. So I followed those women for a year and took and they took me as like one of their own, and I made presentations as I moved from one place to another, and that helped me and to continue on. And then I got animals. I got horses for therapeutic. People wonder, why'd you get all those horses? But I got them for therapeutic, for myself, to learn how to care for them, because I couldn't care for myself. So I had to learn how to care again, to care about things. So I started caring about the horse, and they started giving me the strength that they had. And here I am now today. I'm still I'm still recovering. I'll always have to recover because I always have to try and control my demons or my characters and become a totally different person. And also that way, those changes made me a different person today. And today now I look at it, boy, the programs are really depleting me. There's no money, nothing, no money for us from the federal government, the provincial government. They give us only little peanuts to start off with. We try to advance ourselves, and they just don't want to budge. What do we do? Our resources, they just take the resources away. They make recommendations regarding for them to control the resources, and it's so difficult to trying to get something going. And even Sandy Beach was open for something, with that lightning out of Bouval, but no money. No money. Nobody wants to budge for something like that. And
Oh, we might have lost signal there, Tex. I don't know if that's on your end. It just froze. Candace, wave if you can hear me. Yeah, we're good. No, sorry, Tex, your signal clicked off here. Yeah, no, I can't hear you at all on this end. Max, if you're ready. Yeah, we can hear you now. So we'll put Tex on hold. His signal died off. So Max, Max Morin has been a long time community and Métis leader from Sagitawak. But you pihtaw ako tak sick and Max tunaham yuhtinanda at sumusta you sabahtamin.
I was thinking about the river gatherings you used to go to Beauval. I went to the one in Sandy Bay and Stanley Mission also, because I really liked the people talking about issues that was affecting them. And the other one thing I just wanted to say is one elder from Pine House. I went to visit him one time, and he said, "Max, you know something?" I said, "What?" We give all our tax money to the federal, provincial, municipal governments, and guess what? They use our money to control us. I got a good point, I told him, And when you look at it, Tex was just talking about it. We don't get any resources. The federal government is going from city to city announcing housing initiatives, and yet our people are homeless. And in Kennel Lake, I have 5 grandchildren that belong to the Kennel Lake First Nations, and they don't even have housing for them. They're living all over. Their mom's living in Saskatoon. We got 2 here, and their grandfather, Kennel Lake, is looking after 2. So what the hell's going on? How come they don't provide housing for First Nations Métis, and they're providing all kinds of billions of dollars to Toronto, millions of dollars to Kamloops and Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary? It's hard for me to understand that. I think we're not a priority, because the only priority they have for us is to get mining companies to come and take the uranium out of our country, our territory, and forestry companies to come and log the forest from our territory, and we don't get nothing out of it. I remember Rick used to say when you were an MP, Rick, they said, how come they can fly people from Saskatoon and Prince Albert, and then they don't have any pickup points in the north? So that's still the same thing. The only pickup points is in La Ronge and Buffalo Narrows. So people from Pine House or different communities, Giants Bay, Cold Bay, they either got to drive to Prince Albert, La Ronge, or Buffalo Narrows to catch flights. So these are things that I see happening right now, and we have in the Métis Nation, we have a 9-4 land claim. I was a plaintiff of that, and George Smith is also a plaintiff. There's a few, Calvin Roy from Green Lake, all the other people that are older timers, like my dad and my uncle Louis, Rod Bishop, they were plaintiffs on that, and they all passed away. And if we have land, then the mining companies, the forestry companies, and all these other tourist operators that are taking over our territory have to come to us. They'll have to negotiate with us. But right now, it's the provincial government is the only one that negotiates, and then they in turn give them the okay to go to the mine site and start developing it, and then the proponents are the only ones that deal with communities or rights-bearing people, the Métis, the First Nations, that are in the immediate area, and then the proponents decide which communities they're going to deal with. It's not It's not fair for us because the northern Saskatchewan, northwest Saskatchewan, they're starting to divide us. They say we'll deal with the lost to Buffalo Narrows. Only Necogen Corporation is doing that, and then the other company in Denison Mines is now dealing with only Pine House, Patronac, Attlecross, and Beauval. What about the rest of the communities? They're left right out. So that's the kind of game they're playing right now. And so the reason I bring that out is because it causes a lot of hardships and a lot of anxiety, fear of losing our land. They're polluting our water. And forest fires are chasing out every spring. They're chasing all our people out. And yet, we looked after ourselves before. It was our own people that put out the fires. It's not Therm office out of Prince Albert. Why they're calling the shots from Prince Albert? I know Stanley Mission, the people themselves had to put that fire out because it would have burned Stanley Mission out down last year. Our people know how to put the fires out, but somebody else is the boss, and so they're always making decisions about us. And in regards to drugs and alcohol, I remember our former area director used to say that, Jimmy Fable. He used to say that you better watch it, boys. When the drugs come into our communities, it's going to be hard for the community to come out of it. And so what do? Well, they bring meth, crack cocaine. I don't even know what kind of other drugs they have. And we got little gangs being formed in each community. The gangsters are selling the drugs, and you're using kids to even bike around and deliver the drugs. And nobody's doing nothing. Nobody's saying boo. When I was the mayor in Attlecross, the woman asked me to have a march with them against alcohol, drug pushers, and bootleggers. I went on that march as a mayor, but a lot of my council members took off. They ran away. They didn't have the guts to stand up against alcohol and drugs. And then when they came back, did anybody get shot? You should have been there, I said. Should have been walking with us. Nobody got shot, just to bring awareness about drug pushers and bootleggers affecting our community and our young people. So those are, and then they slashed my car. I was at home and somebody came there at night, slashed the tires and cut my door on the driver's side. And I said, well, as a leader, I guess that's what you have to expect because people don't like to stand untaken. But I believe that I took the right stand. And so those are fears. I think there's a lot of fear even amongst our leadership. You know, even today, right now, last week I seen they're going to be subsidizing or giving a rebate to people that use energy or natural gas. I didn't hear one word from any mayor or whatever or leader from the north saying, what about us that burn fuel or electricity? Nobody's talking on behalf of our people. Are they scared? That's what and if they're scared, then actually we're going to continue having these problems. The problems of alcohol and drugs and whatever. A few years ago, maybe about 15 years ago, I approached a judge in town. I told him, a lot of these young offenders, they're not serious offenses. Why don't you give them so go and give the young people or 2 or 3 young people a fisherman to show them how to go fishing. Give 2 or 3 young people to a trapper to show them how to trap, to live off the land. They call that land-based now, but people will, because I know of families, large families, trappers, fishermen, hunters, never had any education. Their kids are trappers, fishermen today, and yet none of them are in jail. Nobody's a drug addict. Just us in the town or people that go in the cities, I think, we get caught in drugs. Is it because we don't like ourselves? I always question that. I quit drinking in 1976. I said, if I'm going to be in the leadership role as a mayor or even as a councillor, I can't have an impaired mind. Because I'm be representing the people. And so maybe we don't like ourselves. Maybe that's why they're taking so much drugs. Is there something affecting them? Maybe the residential school, the way we were brought up, then we bring our kids up like that. The way we were disciplined, we try to discipline our kids like that. Maybe that's what's affecting them. But we can't always blame, I guess. Maybe we have to take responsibility and do something about it, because nobody will do it for us. Pine House, for example, they started Recovery Lake. I sent my son there last year because we don't have any inpatient or centers for our people to go that want to sober up or quit drugs. Where do they go? 3 people from my community went to 2, and one from Beauval went to a place in Saskatoon called McLeod House. And 3 of them are still sober. One I've seen there is my nephew. 2 years now, he says, I've been sober. Been working, they work out of there, and they come back and sleep there, stay there. I think we need something like that. And a health district right from Green Lake right up to La Roche, or even north of that, the Charm Lake. We have 2 beds in Idlecross, outpatient center. And the inpatient center is in the band, or the La Roche band has an inpatient center. That's all we have. And so at one time they talked about maybe we can negotiate something to access some money so we can maybe buy that Beauval Sandy Bay Resort and use it as an outpatient center. And the outpatient center in turn will follow up with Recovery Lake and they can go to Recovery Lake after their outpatient center, and then in turn will get counseling at Recovery Lake. That's what we had in mind, but been 3, maybe 4 or 5 years since we talked about it. Didn't hear too much about it ever since, but maybe it's because nobody provides resources to us. So I haven't seen any resources coming from the federal government or the provincial government up into our territory with regards to the issues we're discussing here about alcohol and drugs. And even if we had our own access to resources, can we use some of those resources to help our young people? Like cows and plows are fighting over it in Kennel Lake, as an example. Is that what we want our kids to pick up, to fight each other? You know, those are things I have in the back of my mind, and yet we do a lot of talking about alcohol and drugs, but what do we do when the cops pick up these guys? The next week they're home. You know, how come they're not in going to court and getting time or whatever? Or maybe they're just getting picked up. They got no charges. I don't know. What did they do wrong? They didn't find out. They didn't catch them with drugs. Maybe they just had an outstanding warrant for their arrest or on something else. So those are things I think I should bring to your attention, because it's really really hard to see. And we're starting to get afraid, even as elders, to live in our communities, because we don't know who's going to come and kick our door open. And is it going to be safe, or do we have to move? And if we move to an urban center, maybe it's more dangerous over there. So where is it going to be safe for us? Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Max. I just wanted to ask you a question. Maybe you could share with our listeners kind of the history of the health authority. I know we had the Keewate Niuathé Health Authority. You were very significant in developing that, the new facility in Alacross. There was a lot of hope that the capacity for us to take care of ourselves would grow with long-term care. Since then, the government, in its whatever wisdom, wanted to change the Saskatchewan Health Authority, one big authority. They left remnants of the north with Athabasca Health Authority that's there. But we also have the Northern Intertribal Health Authority, the federal jurisdiction on reserve. We've been trying to figure out how can we work together. We need to have a common effort, especially in health services in our region. We got to come together. You have any thoughts on this, Max?
Yes, I think the Métis Nation is negotiating health benefits for the Métis right now. So once we get those benefits, we'll have pretty well the same benefits as First Nations. And then we can get together and form a health authority to look after ourselves. Right now, when we took over the health authority, we had our own people running it. Like Nav Gardner was the first CEO, and then we had Carol Gillis, Richard Petit, and then now the office, and there's still a lot of our own people working, but the decision making is being made in Saskatoon, and we don't have good rapport even from the way what I had in mind when we first started this, even the long-term care. We wanted to treat our elders like they were at home, looked after by our own people, fed their food as they wanted to eat, rababu, maybe bannock, and maybe fish. Not every day, but periodically feed them that, because that's what they're used to, and treat them like human beings, because that's what they want. A lot of people nowadays, I hear people from different communities say they don't want to come to Alacross because it's not a good center to stay in. They keep you in bed, or they tie you up in a chair in front of the TV. And that's it. It's not a good case for people to be in long-term care. Like long time ago, we never had anything like long-term care. The family looked after their elders. We didn't have daycares. The family looked after their children, and we provided everything. We got water. Running water was running to the lake and getting water. And we got wood, and then we had sawed the wood and chopped wood. Now we have everything electric. Electric stove, electric furnace, turn the tap. We don't have to do anything now. No more chores for the kids even to do. So they go to drugs, eh? Nothing to do. So that's what's happening, right? But the only time we can get together with the First Nations is if we get our rights and our benefits from Health Canada, then we can start negotiating and start developing our own health authority, like they did in the Far North. It's under the Nonprofit Corporation Act in the Far North. That's why it's been left like that. It wasn't made up by the province of Saskatchewan. The Far North communities incorporated their health authority.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks for that update. And as the health benefits under the federal umbrella, I guess, as the Métis are recognized under the federal jurisdiction, you're hopeful that a health authority might grow together where we can join together.
Yes, hopefully we can get together because they're negotiating. They've been negotiating, and they're probably close to an agreement. Maybe it'll be part of that whole Bill C-93 or whatever they call it. The treaty that they're negotiating. Yeah.
Well,
Merci.
thank you, Max. Do listen in. If you want to join us at any time, feel free. If you want to ask questions to some of the people who are presenting. I saw a little bit of Alika LaFontaine joining us, but he's a practicing doctor right now and was on shift. So we may not be able to lure him in. I may have missed that window. Chris LaFontaine, maybe you want to report on that, but I saw his name show up for a while, and I thought I feel bad if I missed the opportunity. Oh, I was looking for Chris there just to give us an update. There we go. No, I guess not. Maybe we missed both of them. We were joined by Gail Gardner. I don't know if Gail was intending on speaking or asking questions, but Gail, if at all possible, just unmute yourself. If people are just listening in, that is fine. But if you wish to have the mic, just raise your hand on the Zoom control here. I'll put you up for the next speaker. And who do we have here? There we go. Mervyn, there he is. I think the battery died. Tex, Mervyn Bouvier is back on. We didn't mean to shut you off in midstream there, Mervyn. I don't know if
No, it was hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was my fault. My battery wasn't fully charged, my laptop, so it died on me while I was talking. So I guess I was talking about myself now. I'm just talking about a command system that was put in place, and I think, it was a good idea, but we sometimes we make mistakes. We make mistakes as people, and I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I wouldn't be here if I didn't make mistakes. So as we put this command system in place, I think we in the North, as a Northwest, I think we need to put a system in place, but we need to have all the partners in place, like Métis Nation, First Nations, municipalities, friendship centers, so we can bring everybody together. Saskatchewan Health Authority, RCMP. We did an awesome job with COVID. We probably did the best job in all of Saskatchewan, and thanks to Rick and Knapp, by distributing a proposal, and I have to be really honest about this because it's much needed, but we need some policies, and we need some structure sometimes to understand stuff sometimes, and that's where sometimes we go wrong. In my life, we had to reorganize the whole region because the region didn't have no track record. And as building a track record, now I have a track record for 7 years. have minutes, everything, regarding accountability and transparency. That's the most important thing for me, because in my life, I have to be accountable of my life, because my life is the one that's most important for me to live. So the same thing with my communities. In my community, I have to try and deal with it in that sense, regarding structure. If I don't have that structure, I don't have prayer, then I might go back to that same lifestyle where I won't give a damn about anything. So I have to be careful. I have to be careful of how I go about things, because and all the different generational effects that happen since we're growing, we have saw a lot. We have saw a lot as people, in different areas, the north, the south, the central. We're seeing so many different things happening. People, trying to make changes, but we have to make changes appropriately. That's the answer, and we can do it. We did it in COVID. As soon as an academic came, we did it really good, and then we went our separate ways. And I know that we could have continued, but not thinking as a group to fight for what we believe in as people. I think the fight should have continued, to stick together, and I think the fight should continue, because it brought the people together, and they helped each other. And it was one thing that I never saw before, when it brought all the groups. But as soon as COVID ended, everybody went their separate ways. Everybody, we don't know what's going on this way. There still have little groups here and there, but the main people have to be in that group to understand what's going on in their area, like First Nations, like Métis Nation. I'm Métis Nation. So Métis Nation is involved with putting a government together. We got constitutional reform being done, because the Constitution was done 20, 30 years ago. So we're changing some policies so that way we can adapt to the system that is today. So we're also adopting a treaty, and the treaty is going to take time, because we have to go to the people, we have to go to organizations, we have to go to all different types of areas to make sure that we do a good job of this treaty. We don't want to. This is going to be one treaty that's going to be the best of our people, but working together at the same time, partnerships. It's very unique, especially the partnerships and relationships. Once we create that relationship, that positive outcome, because we did have that positive outcome. We have to say so. When it came to COVID, we worked as a team, and sometimes there are some things that didn't go, as planned, but we still managed to take care of COVID. And for that, I believe that once we have a command system within ourselves, I think it will work. It would work with our, especially the Northwest. For the Northwest, we are different people. We're cultural people. We have cultural science. We have both now. We have cultural science and modern science. But we live in a modern world. But we still believe in our culture. We still believe in our language. So we need to adapt that into the modern, and people have to accept that. And it was hard for them to accept that, because they tried to push it away. And now they have no choice but to accept it. But we have to put it in workshops, in ways, in conferences, to make sure that these people understand what we want, to put it in good policy form, And I can go on and on, but I'm gonna stop there, because I believe in working together, and that's why I came on. I believe in people. I don't believe in myself, just myself. I rather take it out and make sure that I see the people smile, because it's better to see that. And it's hard not to see that, because I come from a drug and alcohol area, and I know how these people think. It's not their fault. Some of them, it's not their fault, because the generational effect of colonization, the generational effect of residential school, the generational effect of the veterans when they went to the war. There's so much effects that people are not dealing with those things. They're not dealing with the mental health. So the mental health is transferring from generation to generation, and we got to take care of it one piece at a time. And I'll stop there. Thank you, Rick, for inviting me.
Thanks, Tex. Good to hear that working together we experienced it, and it's an opportunity here, as Max said, as the Métis find their definition of the under the federal jurisdiction of health benefits and education, that maybe a treaty amongst our own Cree, Dene, Métis of how we conduct ourselves in the future in a united way is very hopeful. So I see Mike DeRocher has joined us. Mike, pista pitago pigsqui uti sawa nohqui gumigots Mike, but definitely a lot of people know Mike from his work at NBC and also Nortep. So Mike, what is it on sitawat sumunya?
Oh
yeah, pihtaten.
Okay, Tafsin Utamian, I couldn't come on. Utamian, they want Giskian and Uskapi Giskim with Marie. Marie Mahalik sent me a message to remind me, so I was busy. Mamunanto. Muntani Gistina Hungiwaya Hai Mutami because I just got on. So give me a quick recap.
What we've done, Mike, is the river gathering on but we can't do it physically. So we're using the technology of YouTube, Facebook, Zoom, by connecting people's minds on the issues that are affecting us. And the pandemic, we were forced to be apart, but we're trying to bring that energy of people's knowledge, people's concerns, but it's focusing on community health and community safety. The young generation with these poisonous drugs, but it's also affecting, we knew the pandemic was going to affect mental health. And we see that not only in our communities, but it's happening all over the world. But you've seen the evolution of the North, the capacity of the North. We were on our way to regional government, Kayas, Mamtanich, then 1980, and then the status of where we're at now.
Well, then sit to people. They go in my.
The other thing I was going to say, Robin Hill joined us from Labrador. So maybe speaking in English, we'll hit a broader brush.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm a little out of. How would you say? I haven't heard much in the last while. I know the pandemic has really affected everybody, including my family, my daughter especially. But for myself, over here, because I live in a little small farm village, I don't see very many people. So the pandemic really didn't affect me in terms of isolation. I know it affected a lot of people, especially, people that were used to traveling, going out and about and stuff, and then all of a sudden they're stuck at home. They had to work at home, and it's really affected a lot of people with their mental well-being. But as for me, it didn't really affect me because I never see nobody. I'm always in a kind of a little small village. I don't go out much. So it didn't affect me, even though I did get COVID 3 times here now, ever since this past winter. Fortunately, I never got sick. Once, I don't know, I must be half Matsamantu, something, I don't know. I never got seriously sick, thank God for that. And I know my little granddaughter that we raised, she got quite sick the second time she got it for a good week. And Debbie got it too, but we were lucky. I don't know why. We were fortunate enough, thank goodness we never got seriously sick. But in terms of our communities, I really noticed that when I go up north to go home and visit family, how it's affected so many people. And but the biggest problem that's affecting most people is these nasty drugs that have come up north. I mean, they're prevalent in the cities, but they're everywhere too now, like crystal meth. And I mean, crack's been around for years, but crystal meth and a lot of these pill poppers, and I don't know. I've been out of the circuit for so long, I don't even know what's out there anymore.
We heard from Peter from Northern Labrador just this afternoon, Peter Paniquache, and he was sharing about the laws need to change for the benefit of the community. He was retaliating a drug dealer, and he gets charged immediately. but the complaints about the drug selling in the community go unnoticed or unattended to by the RCMP. So that was a story that just came from Northern Labrador, and Peter used to be a former member of Parliament, so he's going to take it.
Okay, I know Peter. I went to that pre-law school program with him, Peter at Tenor. He was an MP there for a short time years ago when Jean Chrétien was Prime Minister. I think that's quite a while ago. So I know who you're speaking of. Yeah, it's really, how would you put it? It's difficult for our municipalities where we come from to try and enforce laws to ban drug dealers. In the First Nations, it's a little bit easier because it's their own territory. They can make their own decisions. We experienced that in Grandmother's Bay where I was administrator. We were able to ban certain outside drug dealers, white people that came into the community. It's a little bit easier for First Nation because you need ban council resolution. But in terms of municipalities, it's a little trickier because our laws are a bit different in terms of local governance. I know in Isle La Crosse they did ban an individual that ended up moving to Meadow Lake. I don't know, I think it was a pretty much a voluntary process. They decided just to get out. But to physically actually ban somebody from a community, I think it's a little more difficult in terms of municipal governance. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear any of our local government people, mayors or councillors today or yesterday, since I just came on. So I don't know what procedures they're looking at, but there must be some avenues that we could use the courts to be able to enforce some of these and maybe even get some help from the RCMP. I mean, their hands are full too right now with just trying to deal with the ongoing crimes and the violence. I mean, almost monthly you hear of some incident back home or somewhere up north with guns and, you know, basically extreme violence that we never went through. You know, that's what's alarming to me is the violence with our young people. They're just not scared. I don't know if they've been insensitivized from playing war games on computer games and, you know, all that stuff, killing each other on games. So it seems to have moved into the realm of the real world where they don't think twice about shooting somebody, busting into somebody's house and basically assaulting them. You know, I really have a hard time understanding how they go about that in terms of being able to. There's just no respect. Our elders are living in fear because their grandchildren want money, and you know, we hear about that even in the far north, and it's not healthy. It's really difficult on our elders having. I mean, they love their grandchildren. They like to help them, but sometimes under the issue, while they're right out of it on crystal meth, I mean, even those kids don't know what actually they're doing until they come out of it.
No, this is it's a sensitive subject to try and navigate our youth through the pitfalls that are there now. Like you said, we never have to deal with these issues in the past, but these are poisons. These are, you know, killing a generation. As Peter said, the next, you know, our children are facing it, but our grandchildren are going to be inundated with it. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, is what we're hearing. But trying to find our way through this, not only healing our children, but also even getting on the land. On the land, healing is a big part of our discussions yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But even the barriers of getting a lease, a traditional land use lease is cumbersome. The government has total control of all the crown lands in our province, and there's no administrative center in the north that's dealing with land issues.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's right. I mean, with what's happening today with our young people, I mean, there's going to be a generation or two that are going to be totally lost. Our traditional livelihoods, the way we grow up, fishing and hunting, our language, that's going to be lost. I worry about my granddaughter and her future. She's only 9 years old. I'm almost 70. We've been looking after her since she was 5 months old. She's doing good. But what happens 15 years from now when she's a teenager, trying to do stuff on her own? I mean, it's so difficult. Even today, the cost of living is also a big factor with these young families. The price of groceries, even rent is, especially in the cities, it's pretty out of hand. When you got to pay over $1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. And then we also have to face the fact of racism. So many people, I went through that all my life, fighting for a job. What's it going to be like for our young people, trying to prove themselves that they're capable of doing a job? That's another thing we also have to face. And then also education, to make sure they understand the importance of getting some form of education to better themselves in the future. I mean, I was kicked out of school at 15 from the residential school in Isle of Cross. I managed to survive and work and trap and fish and find work. But in the southern world, it was more of a challenge because you had to prove yourself. If I never spoke well, maybe I would never have gotten a job. Under your help, I developed the confidence to go back to school. So at age 36, I went back to school and to university and ended up with a law degree. So that's helped me along the way. I've always worked, and now that I'm getting a little, since I retired, it gets boring doing nothing. So during harvest here, I keep myself busy driving a semi-hauling grain for a farmer friend of mine. I've been doing it for 9 years. I also sit on a couple of committees with the Métis Nation now to keep myself busy. I sit on the hunting rights committee to try and get hunting rights across the province for Métis people, and hopefully without them touching the existing hunting rights we have around Isle of Cross. But I mean, that's just a small little postage stamp size area for us to hunt, and we can't all go up there to hunt. I mean, we'll kill off everything. I mean, it's small. It doesn't even go past Buffalo Narrows. It doesn't go past Patronac. It doesn't even include La Planche. It goes right by Beauval, up to Green Lake, and I think up to the Primrose bombing range. That's it. So, just for my daughter, but you know what I mean? It's really difficult to try and help people, especially when they're under influence and they don't believe what you say. They've lost their religion, be it spirituality or mainstream religion. A lot of that's gone. We need to have some faith. I practice both ways in terms of my spirituality. I still pray the Indian way, and then every now and then, if I have to, I'll go to the church. It's not my first priority, but I think it's also important for our young people to have some faith in something. There's so many different things we have to worry about and try and steer them in the right direction. And the only way we can do it is to help them clean up. I mean, my daughter's been clean now for 6 weeks. She's back working and trying to do something for herself, but it's been a big struggle. I spent a lot of my own savings to try and help her out. On one hand, I was, how would you say that? even though I was trying to help her, there's a
Enabling?
term, like, it's just not coming out, enabling her. You know, it's your own kid. You want to help out. So you can say no, but I mean, sometimes when they're stuck in the city, they're on the streets, basically homeless, you want to do something to help them. So enabling is one thing. It's good and bad, because on one hand, they need that help to have a roof over their head, but on the other hand, they know dad's going to help me out, mom's going to help me out, so they keep doing what they're doing. And it just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's been 2.5 years, and finally, I think she finally woke up again. It's the second time now this has happened. And I'm hoping this is the last time. I mean, she lost her son to the welfare system. We had him here for a while. Now he's back in Saskatoon under social services, but at least he has daily contact with his mom now, because in Regina it wasn't happening. So I'm kind of glad that way, even though I'm talking about personal stuff, it affects everybody. I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people. I mean, yourself and your family, you experienced that yourself with your son. We've all gone through that, and we just pray at the end of the day, things are going to change. And most times they do. And yet, on the worst scenario is we've buried a lot of young people too, because of what's been happening. We've lost a lot of young people who had potential and just lost their way. And some of them ended up doing it on themselves, or they overdose.
Yeah.
So those are things we got to consider in how, like you say, to be able to find something, be it putting them in a bush camp somewhere for a month or two, or just experiencing what we went through, living, you know, using the land to, I mean, it's so therapeutic being out there in the bush, on the lake fishing, or walking a trail with a 22, picking off chickens and things like that. It makes you feel good. And a lot of our young people haven't experienced that. Even from our northern communities, a lot of the kids haven't gone through that because, well, I guess in one way too, we have to blame some parents. Some parents were that way themselves, and so it's intergenerational. Probably three generations now, where some of their grandparents went through addictions, finally able to overcome it and do well for themselves, and then their kids, and now their grandkids. So I would say that at least 3 generations have impacted us in our home communities. Not everybody, but some families. And I know some people, and they've pulled out of it, which is nice, but now it's their grandchildren, you know, and then next it'll be the great grandchildren. So somewhere along the line, we need to try and work something out to help our young people to get out of this syndrome we're in. And COVID's not the only thing that affected it. It's just the whole lifestyle, multimedia, you know, social media, TikTok, a lot of different things have been negative. All these games, a lot of kids, that's all they do. They won't do nothing. They won't go watch hockey. They won't go play hockey or get involved in stuff. They're just stuck in their social games and social media. I mean, I get accused of being online too much too, but that being retired, what, well, I'm supposed to do, you know, I can only do so much, but I'm old, it's different. It's young people, we need to help them take some time off social media sometimes and just go enjoy the street, go walk down the street somewhere, go for a walk, do something. Except.
No, that's awesome. It's a good candid discussion, especially with the personal challenges that we're facing. You've hit it home. Thank you for sharing. But we're here for 2 more days, so take a listen to, and you can go on YouTube and hear what we said last night. So if you want to respond to other people's ideas or comments, feel free. Mike, you can join us anytime.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Marie, for reminding me, because I was I just came back from the village office and then I got a message from Marie because I tried to get online on the radio at first, but I was on the wrong link. I guess it's an old link and you're on a new one now. So I was able to get on it, but once I got into Zoom here, then I turned my computer off because I could listen to it here, right, when somebody's speaking. So yeah, merci, Rick.
Right on. Thanks,
Greetings,
Mike.
happy Easter to everybody out there. Don't jump on them bunnies. Okay, accept.
Gail, I see you. I don't hear you, but Gail Gardner.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Tansa, good afternoon. I'm at Valley View School right now. I'm just like, okay, should I speak? What do I say? You know, I was just thinking about your question and how drugs, you know, like the lifestyles of our people, has it affected our school? You know, like, has it affected our space? Has it affected our students, our staff? And right now, everybody knows in Saskatchewan, our teachers are in a strike because of the learning conditions. You know, like after COVID occurred, the learning conditions have really, that sense of wellness, I guess, is like, it's really deteriorated. And the amount of addictions that are out there in our community, it's like really, it's prevalent. It's like you can see it, you can see it. And we see it here in our school and we feel it. Our working conditions, sometimes it's like we're shutting off little fires, you know, like it's a daily shutting off of fires. And sometimes like we're not prepared for some of the trauma our students bring in, you know, like, because they do bring that trauma in, like what they're seeing in the community, what is happening in the community gets brought into our school. And then we have to think about what is our safe space? What is our school, are our schools safe spaces? But when they bring that in, like, you know, it breaks my heart because, you know, at the end of the day, that if I send them back home to the place where, or back into the community where things are happening, like the trauma is happening, it breaks my heart because we do have to have boundaries as well for our students, right? You have to have those boundaries in place for our students and for our staff, just so that everybody feels safe within the building. But I'm from Beauval, I'm from the community, and I know my own people. I grew up with my own people. So Beauval is a small community, and we all know, like, we all come from our own communities. We know everything, we hear everything, right? And how do we deal with the issues? And I know right now, like, our Saskatchewan Teachers Federation is trying to go to the government for our learning conditions. And sometimes they feel like we're nickel and diming, like we have to apply for grants. And, you know, like, when we need some of the resources, why do we have to nickel and dime it to apply for these grants? Because our school divisions aren't getting the funding, right? But we still do, because a lot of us are from our community, like the people that live in Northern Saskatchewan. A lot of us work and we are from Northern Saskatchewan. So our hearts are invested, like we are invested in our communities. So we do write those grants, even though it does take a lot of time, right? Because, you know, like, you have to write it out, then you have to do the summary reports. It's like a lot of work. It's like staying in the evenings, working on weekends, but we do it just because of our students and our community. I've noticed as well, like, with the increase of the addictions in our community, we're also seeing hunger quite a bit of hunger happening, but it's also with how everything is getting so expensive it's not even just Saskatchewan, it's like right across Canada and probably around the world. You know, like everything's getting so expensive. So I know a lot of our parents, like it is a struggling thing just to feed your kids. And then they then come to the school and, you know, they're still hungry. Like we do still feel it. And we do use a lot of our budget just so that our kids aren't on survival mode. Because, you know, like we all know when you're on survival mode, you're on fight mode, right? Like you're ready to fight, or you're ready to, like, you don't think rationally when you're hungry, you didn't have a good sleep, you don't feel safe, you're on fight mode or flight. So we do feel it here at the school, and the government needs to hear like even our voices. And it's not only in the education sector, it's in all sectors. It's like in the health sector. We did have some young people like trying to get support in addictions. And it's just like when you're trying to advocate for youth, there is no place for them. Like, where do you put youth who need addiction support? And it's just like, we're like hamsters in a wheel. It's just like we're running. And then it's just like, oh, well, they'll get into trouble with the RCMP. They'll end up at corrections, or they'll end up somewhere. They'll be safer. And then again, we get them, like, you know what I mean? We get them back in our community. So it's like we're hamsters in our wheel. And it's like, sometimes it's like we don't slow down. We just keep running, right? And I feel for a lot of young people in our community, because it's like, just to get out there, even just to get out somewhere, I'm seeing like some of the skills that I call them technology babies. Like we do have a lot of technology babies on iPads and everything like that. And it's probably been in the last, 25 years, but it's even more where babies are using technology now. But some of the skills that kids come in with, because if they're on technology, the social skills aren't being used, aren't being developed. So then we have kids coming in who just don't have the skills. And then you want to have a workforce who don't have the skills, who don't have the social skills, who are in survival mode, possibly in addictions. Like, it's everything compounded. And I know at the heart of our communities, like a lot of our partnerships, Métis Society, our First Nations health funding needs to be allocated to a lot of our children, you know, at least 0 to 25. An investment has to be in those children for preventative measures, for professional development as well for our staff, because of the complex needs. I feel that our teachers do need more now today in regards to trauma. How do you deal with students who come in with trauma, right? So how do we do that? And how do we do it? Like, how do we actually invest in that? But I know that if we were to do partnerships between First Nations and Métis communities, and a lot of us are in those partnerships already, we can go a lot further with the funds that people have, you know, like, and invest in your youth, in your children. Like, even from 0 to 5 years old, have language nests, have doula support programs, have mothering, fathering programs. But money is needed to train, because we need capacity building in our communities. We need trainers. We need to train the trainers, right? So that investment is so important. And another thing, like, one other thing that we have done, I know at Valley View School that has worked. I saw Candace's question, what traditional methods were used for healing. One of the things that we've tried at Valley View School for the last, I believe, like 16 years, I've been on administration. We went to a program called Restitution. It's like restorative justice, how to restore our students. And I believe that giving them that safe space to have to talk it out, to have discussions with their parents, maybe with their teachers, with other students, right? And restituting their behaviors. And it's worked really well. Like I say that it has really helped. And in our communities right now, we don't have that in our communities. I don't see it anywhere where people can go and have a discussion. Like if you wanted to have a discussion with mayor and council, just a complaint, or you have an idea, where is that going to go? And how is it dealt with in a safe space, right? Or where do we do it with the Métis Society or First Nations, like the reserves, MLTC? Do they have those spaces where people can come and have a discussion and problem solve some of the issues? Like, I don't know if they're there, and maybe they are. Maybe some places do have them, but I think there has to be an investment in that. And the last one I believe in is that we need to start looking in our own communities at mentorship programs where we develop land-based mentorship programs, because we do have a lot of people in addictions, and they are overlooked. And we all know there are relatives, there are family members, and we need to use them. But sometimes those restrictions are there, especially if there's criminal records and stuff like that. But how do we bring them into these programs where elders, these, like, you know, the people who need support, and then our youth and our students all work together in a mentorship program to develop land-based programs. And we need that. It cannot be part of maybe Northern Lights School Division. It cannot be part of village offices. It's like a separate system, right? It has to be a separate system, because sometimes when there's different perspectives, like we have rose-colored glasses sometimes, and we will look at it from a different perspective. But if you're going to develop land-based program, it has to be way separate than different groups and stuff like that. But those are sort of my ideas and sort of my opinions, and you know, I just wanted to have an opportunity to speak out to Northern Saskatchewan, to all my cousins, and just kidding. Just so everybody hears me. But thank you, like, to give me that opportunity to express my ideas. And I always like look up to Rick, because like Rick is our board member, and we've used him as our elder, and I really I really respect Rick, because Rick is like those advocates that pushes it, like, you know, and we need more people out there. And what Max Morin said, we do need people out there. We can't be scared, like, because if we are scared, and because what are people going to do? Like, what are we just going to do? Sit by and watch passively? Right? We need those leaders who are not scared, who don't fear, right? And will advocate and push for, like, push past status quo, because things can't always stay the same. We have to change it, and we have to change to what's happening now. So, ego se, thank you so much, Rick, for having me on. I could talk and I'll be like talking all, but thank you so much.
Yes, and Gail, we heard in the news, we hear from the STF president talking about classroom complexities. But Kia, the way you put it, the way you explained it, it's right in our home. It's in our own classrooms. And thanks for keeping up the battle with the teachers making up a stand, and it's for our children. It's for improving our education, what you're doing. So thank you very much. We've been joined by others. They just have first names. I have a Chris, a Robert, and a Keegan's iPhone. Raise your hand if or unmute yourself and explain or introduce yourself to us. But Chris, if you're willing to come on, please join us. There's Robert as well. There's a Robert on here, and there's a Keegan's iPhone. I'm just opening it up for people to join us on the iPhone here as much as possible. But we also have Dr. David. Dr. David has joined us again, and he's been periodically listening to us. But maybe just gonna give us your take on what you've been hearing up to now, or is this what you've been expecting in terms of hearing from the communities, or this is way beyond? So Dr. David is a medical health officer that's in charge of Northern Saskatchewan, and he's joined us weekly on our emergency response of keeping updated on COVID and other health issues in the north. But step right in there, David. Let's see what you have to say.
Everyone, my name is David, Dr. David Edward Poon. Please call me David. I am one of the medical health officers for Northern Saskatchewan. My interest is in mental health and public health. I believe the next healthcare crisis will be a mental health one. I'm here to learn. I'm grateful to Rick and Candace for their teaching. It's been a wonderful river gathering, and any way that I can help advocate or push forward any ideas, I'm very happy to do. I'll leave my email in the chat if you ever want to reach out. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Dr. David. Candace, I know you've been listening and been commenting on the chat room, but people aren't seeing the chat. So let's see what you've been observing and what's of a concern to you.
Well, there's been a few really good points made. Tex and Max made a few points there. And the reality is resources are being bled out of the north. And one of the things we have to do is take back more control of that. That has to be one of the things that we can control so we can address the needs of our communities. The housing, like I know in our meetings with Dr. Poon and that and the medical teams, the social indicators of health is always something that is brought up. And like lack of housing is one of the huge ones, and yet we're in a position right now, where Mike was talking about, can we kick people out of municipal communities? Well, we don't kick them out of communities, but we do kick them out of houses, and so do we on First Nations, and we've been doing that. And it's primarily the users, not necessarily the dealers, but sometimes it has been, especially when they start to endanger the neighbors. It's gotten to that point. But what we're finding out is concerns from other communities are, we push them out of here, they go to Beauval, Beauval kicks them out, they go to Alacrosse kicks them out, they go to another center and another center. And there's no way at this point, there's not an organized way to inform that they've been kicked out of a community for those reasons. So that we just make it somebody else's problem. And that's a concern that's been tabled before as well. I would like to know what traditional means of dealing with people who are disruptive to the communities used to be. Before we depended on policing, before we did all those things, what methods were used culturally? And like I've had this recent discussion with the elders in my community, and I'll be having a similar discussion with the adults and later on the youth. Like what we identified all the historical events that impacted and changed how the people did things, how they dealt with stuff, that has led us to the state that we're in right now, where we have to have security in our communities for anyone to feel safe. And that's getting really, really out of whack. I get calls every week from elders in our community, like they're not feeling safe. They have these concerns. It's fortunate that we can reach out and hire security, but that is putting an expense that isn't really covered. There's no budget for that. And we're taking it out of other health and mental health aspects to be able to do that. From our justice departments, from all of those departments, we're borrowing money to try and ensure the safety of our community members. And, I liked what Joseph actually said the other day about impacting the demand aspect, not the supply, the supply and demand aspect of drugs. If we can impact the demand, because we really don't have control over the suppliers at this point. Now, there is a feeling in all of our communities that the police are useless. The police constantly tell us that we need to have first-hand statements from witnesses before they can do anything. And they're not getting that. People aren't even bothering to report half the crime that is going on because they don't feel they're going to get any benefit or any, there's a lot of property crime, breaking and entering, theft. And we've experienced it in all of the communities. And nobody ever gets anything back. So why bother? The police straight up tell you, you're not going to get anything back. Because we can't prove anything. We can't go by hearsay. They can't even set up sting operation. Like, that would be so simple to do. Set up sting operations. I know of one house in Beauval that had, I was helping watch over. They actually ripped the skirting off the crawl space and broke through a wall into the basement and another part of the house, and were stealing items through the crawl space. I reported it, went back to meet with the RCMP 3-4 hours later by the time they arranged to come, and already a whole bunch more stuff was gone. So where is the protection for those people? It's unfortunate, and it's causing a lot of stress in our communities. People are afraid to leave their homes unprotected. We have to resort to young people, young women sometimes are very afraid to stay alone in case there's a home invasion. We have to do and have the courage to do more, like that former MP in Labrador. I can't pronounce his name, I'm sorry. But you got to stand up. You can't just keep expecting somebody's going to fix it for us, because they're not. In fact, there is no intent that they are going to fix it for us. Government has made that amply clear by reducing the funds that are coming into our communities, by reducing programs. They want us to go the corporate route and ask corporations for grants. That's what they want. But they want us in a state of crisis so that we're in no position to deal with them, to deal with those resource takers. And that's very clear. We've come into this situation over the last, since the 70s. You know, before that, people had a lot more control over what went on in their communities to a certain degree. And before that, well, like when we did that impact, looked at all those events that impacted, there was very, very many events. And each time trauma was involved. Each time a trauma reaction was involved. It's gotten to the point where people are frozen into compliance. And this is where we're at. So how do we get that balance back? That's the discussion I would really love to hear. How will we get that balance back? We need to bring some methods that were culturally appropriate. Land-based, yes. Everything is always pointing to the land-based, and it works. But we got to get that balance. And we got to do what it takes to get there. And if government's not going to do it, then what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and just talk and talk and complain and complain and complain? Or are we going to take a few steps and stand up? Put some pressure on. Because we can point the fingers at all the drug dealers and the gang members, but back of that, there's another whole group there that got the purse strings. And we're not standing up to them. And every time we've tried to stand up to them, as we witnessed during COVID, they come in and pull the divide and conquer. And every time we try to pull together, they pull up. We need to stop suckering in. It's too important, or we are going to be in one heck of a mess in 10 years, as Lloyd said. I agree with so many of the comments and so many of the testimonies today. So going forward, I'd like to hear a lot more good ideas for health and mental health. Like, why the hell don't we have a hospital where we can have babies? Like, that's just wrong. That's putting pressure on families and expenses on families. It's expensive. You put a family out in Saskatoon for a month to wait for a baby. They can't afford that kind of time off from their jobs. That's their kids either have to go with them and miss school, or they have to miss their parents. That's having an effect on what teachers can do in schools too. So, there's a lot of work to be done, and it's going to take some really cohesive action. Vince wants to speak.
No, thank you very much, Candace. I know giving a baby into this world, or bringing a baby into this world, is supposed to be a happy time, but the way you've explained it, it's traumatic. It's a traumatic way for a family to bring a baby into our community. So thanks for sharing with that. Vince, if you unmute yourself, right on. You could
Yeah, Rick, I can't guess what your intentions are, but I commend you over the years. I think I spent 5 years at Mississinipi-Achimu covering these events, Sandy Bay or Bovell, etc., etc. You and I have talked many times with interviews mid-Canada. Now this corridor is going to scare the hell out of us, and so on and so on. So, and what Candace says, we're all carrying kind of heavy hearts. I don't know how to ask it other than, number one, as a caveat, this is really cool to have these regional conversations. We never have these regional conversations. If some of us wanna vent, fine. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. What's your intent going forward into day 4, which is Thursday? And that's where the workable solutions. I'll give you an example at the micro level here in Pine House. We have prevention planning meetings every week, and we're always told, don't just bring in the bitching and the complaining, try and bring a solution and try very hard to be part of the solution. So we're going full speed, all pistons going here in Pine House to try and improve our socioeconomic conditions. We have our challenges. Not all the ducks are in a row. We got a lot of external factors, trying to crush us too. As every time we try and stand, you have to have very strong leadership to be able to withstand. As if in a war scenario, the general has to have a strong backbone, so the lieutenants below him can do the work. Much like me, I've been told a lot of years now, Vince, put your head down, go to work, shut up, earn your paycheck, and that's the philosophy that I use every day. But going forward, Rick, and here's the question I want to ask you. The FSINs, I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. I'm not dissing them. The FSINs and the MNSs and the PAGCs and the Saskatchewan Tribal Councils, how can we link each other to them to start to forge or instigate tangible, workable partnerships where if there's lack of resources under reconciliation in Canada, when these entities that's supposed to be representative of our interests get the money from the feds or in Regina, it trickles down to some of us lieutenants, for lack of a better word, so we can have, as Candace says, workable solutions in the region. How can we do that without the leadership at these various levels looking at us as just bitching and complaining sessions over here? How can we do that going forward in a very tangible way, Rick?
I think, Vince, bringing the people together is certainly the discussions as we have here. But at the end, we're trying to make a summary so everybody can have a summary of what's discussed. But it's also available on YouTube for review. But going forward, what I experienced through the pandemic when we were all working together, that what Tex talked about, we had the First Nations, the Métis, the municipal, all working together, but we didn't have the framework. When the money came in for convenience, Indian Affairs wanted convenience went through the Tribal Council of MNS. It never recognized the entity that we were creating. And regional services like mutual aid agreements between on reserve and off reserve, let's say firefighting. Well, this is a first response. Firefighting is going to be a major response for us. And for the North to come together from PA Grand Council, as you mentioned, Meadow Lake Tribal Council, I think all of us should come to a document. It's almost like a treaty that this is how we're going to help each other. This is how we're going to coordinate our resources together. Because some people may have a bulldozer, another person may have a backhoe. But in times of firefighting, instead of somebody coming up from Martinsville or Estevan to come break a contract, to come cut open a line up here, well, we could utilize our own resources and activate them here. That's what we were looking for. So that would be my suggestion with the existing leadership structures in place with the municipal, Métis, and First Nations. Let's have a mutual aid agreement on emergency measures right now. How we're going to respond. If somebody gets evacuated from Pine House, instead of sending them to Regina, if there's a safe space in Beauval, let's coordinate it. Let's take care of each other before we send them to far, far away in that sense. So the same thing with our partners in Manitoba. Manitoba, Northern Ontario, Northern Quebec, you see Labrador. That's at mid-Canada that you also heard me in the past talk about. But I wanted to see capacity building, not necessarily the corporate development of our resources. I wanted to see the community capacity of how we can work together. Like, look at the regional government in Northern Quebec. An issue here that we raised, why couldn't Northern Saskatchewan unite and field a team into the Arctic Winter Games? Let's find ways where our children can come together as one. Same thing with Northern Manitoba. Northern Manitoba qualifies for the Arctic Winter Games as well. All residents of the North could go represent themselves in this northern circumpolar world. So sometimes the solutions to our problems may be to the north of us, not necessarily to the south, but the way we can live, the way we can survive with resource extraction, with resource revenue sharing. Maybe those solutions are to the north of us in the territorial governments, maybe northern Scandinavia, maybe northern Alaska. But the social issues are the same. We heard from Labrador this morning of the same struggles with drugs. But we can use existing tools, Vince. If the leaders are willing, I think we need a framework agreement amongst our jurisdictions ahead of time on emergency preparedness. We need to take care of ourselves in case of crisis. Kahit mamsi totoo, mamsi tat tawichi hittu ahkian o titu. Okay, Vince, I'll move on. We've had, were you done for now? You're going to continue broadcasting in the next couple of days as well for people to hear? Yeah, miyasin. And if they want to log on, just email, just share your email, that link, and people can log on at any time. So Elizabeth was logging on from Alacross. I don't know if we got her. Oh, we might have lost her again. So we'll flip over to White Lightning. Marie Mahalitz has raised her hand. So Marie, there was some reference from Max on the hope of dealing with the I guess the treatment center or the inpatient, outpatient, that he was the language that was being used, but that's definitely something you wanted to hear. Maybe we can respond on that.
Yeah, just quickly here, I know Keegan has been waiting on his iPhone, and I'm excited to hear from a youth in this forum. He's got something to share with us. But yeah, I like what you said, Vince, and I was thinking the same thing around what's going to be on this last day. Like to be solution focused, so we're walking away from this forum with tangible working committees, or that we feel like there's going to be some action put into this. I think I'm just going to pause for a second, and I'm hoping Keegan can unmute his phone here just so that we can get him in here before 4. I'll just pause myself and hopefully he can jump in here.
Yeah, Keegan, we're going to give you a call out. Keegan's iPhone is logged on.
Hello.
It's unmuted now. Keegan, what's your name and where are you from?
Keegan Hansen. I was born in Meadow Lake. I was raised in Beauval, Saskatchewan, and Dory Lake, Saskatchewan.
Yay, right on. Thanks for joining us. But you've heard the issues being discussed, but whatever's in your heart, you got the microphone.
Kind of my story over the last few years, and going back to what I think would be beneficial for a lot of people, especially my age. I'm 28. I'm not that old, so using and utilizing the land, I think, is one of the most important ones. For me, it has been something that is what I like to say, like saved me from becoming something that I didn't want to be. I was like, my early 20s, late teens, I partied quite often. Up until April of last year was when I called it quits. I mean, it was a tough journey. It still is a tough journey. I mean, every day is kind of a battle. You kind of fight the urges to want to go out with your buddies and have a drink, or go and sit in a buddy's shop till 5 a.m, pissing yourself, doing all that stuff. But a couple of years ago, I kind of bit the bullet. I've watched a lot of TV and a lot of hunting shows, and I don't know if any of you folks know, but my grandfather was George Hansen, and he taught me how to fish and he taught me how to hunt. And growing up, I was watching those TV shows, and I always thought, man, it would be so cool to be a hunting guide. And that kind of was stapled in the back of my mind for years and years and years, from when I was just a young kid. And a couple of years ago, I actually had the opportunity to go up to northern BC, which I'm very glad I bit that bullet, because it's flourishing into something that I'm probably going to be doing until the day I die, because it's something that I cherish and something that I hold very, very, very close to my heart. And just being out there, taking off my boots after, you know, especially being up in BC, there's a lot of hiking and a lot of walking around and just being out in nature where, you know, you can scream as loud as you want and nobody's going to hear you. And that's one of the greater things about it. But taking those boots off and your socks off and digging your feet into the ground and, you know, kind of mushing that dirt around is kind of grounding yourself to Mother Earth, using Mother Earth in that nature. And a lot of times people think that, you know, you have to go to BC or Alberta, Banff, and all these places to see all these beautiful things. But over the last couple of months, I would say since Christmas, like I've gone out with my cousin up in Beauval, and we've gotten to some pretty nice places, just in and around Beauval. Not even like we didn't even leave Beauval. Like I would say 50 kilometers, and we have the same kind of beauty back home. We just don't have mountains, right? So, I mean, utilizing the land and protecting what we have left, I think is one of the bigger things we should focus on in terms of helping people who are addicted and all that fun stuff, right?
No,
You still there?
yes, we were
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to say George taught you well on the life skills and the dangers of the land, but the healing, like you said, it's for a young population. And we were discussing even the leases, the traditional land use leases that are given out by trappers to young trappers that want to start like you have.
Yes, sir.
But there's barriers from the Crown land administrators. So I think the leadership have to look at the Crown land use in the north because somebody from India could buy up land in northern Saskatchewan probably faster than our young trappers. So we have to
absolutely.
So these are you hit the nail on the head. I think Keegan, you know, in your sober years, as much as we can, if we can help you in any way from our community, we'll stand up with you. But that land and the hunting guide, maybe that's something to, you know, giving those skills. It's almost like an entrepreneur. You could be a resort owner in that sense, or ecotourism owner, or, you know, there's talks in that way. So don't give up that connection to your land and also to find a livelihood the way your grandfather did.
Yes, sir. And another thing, you know, I boast and I rave about guiding this and guiding, you know, Americans and South Africans and all these people, but it's not just about guiding. It's, you know, I still go out just to go out for the sake of just being out and watching the sunset in the evening, or go make a fire early in the morning in the wintertime and cook some bannock over the fire. I mean, to me, there's nothing better. There's no better therapy. I mean, I've come to realize that the only person that's going to help you is yourself. And, you know, for me, what works for me is having that fire, whether it's early in the morning, late at night, or during the day, is watching those hot coals burn and crackle and snap. And for me, that's therapy. I work out a lot of kinks in my life just by listening and staring at that fire, or staring at this, you know, the sunrise in the morning or the sunset in the evening. It's very, very therapeutic. And for me, over the last couple of years, especially, I grew up Roman Catholic, kind of fell out of it and started leaning towards my Indigenous side of my spirituality, going to sweats and smudging and praying that way. And that too is really, really done a number on me in a good way, like more or less saved my life. And I mean, you can almost feel, like I was mentioning before, you take off your boots and sink your feet into the sand or into the dirt, and you look at a sunset or a sunrise, and you can almost feel that connection with Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is a being, and we're all part of Mother Earth, and we're all related to the trees and the wind and the grass and the trees, whatever else there may be, right? So, I mean, all in all, it's been a tough journey for myself, but it's also been a very rewarding one. because mainly because of, you know, just that one day I decided to take that leap of faith and bite that bullet and go out to BC. And when I was out in BC, seeing all these just outstanding, beautiful, you know, scenic places, I mean, I just constantly told myself, I mean, I shouldn't have to be driving 20 hours away just to see, you know, landscape like this. I know I do in order to see mountains and whatnot, but in terms of landscape, no, it's in our backyard, and I think we need to utilize it a little bit more than we have been over the last few years.
Well, that is awesome to hear from your perspective, Keegan, and thanks for
Yes, sir.
sharing some of your life experience. But we're on here for a couple more days. If you hear of anything that's striking to you or any suggestions you'd like to stand up with, feel free to join us at any time.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for listening to my my story. And if you guys need any more people to speak, I'm always here. I'm always available.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Thank you, Keegan.
Alrighty. Absolutely. You guys take care.
That was Keegan from the lineage of George Hansen. A lot of people know the legendary George Hansen, but there's a grandson that's finding his way here in northern Saskatchewan. Thanks for joining us. Next, I'd like to flip over to Elizabeth Gardner. Elizabeth, you were going in and out from us here. I lost you when I last called you, but if you unmute yourself, kapihtat nantunig way so tansitat sumoy na putsi uwitsimiaki way. If you want to ask us a question, or if you have a perspective or a story to share, your point of view, it's there's a mute button there somewhere. I'm not sure on the phone. *69, I think, maybe. Oh, maybe she accidentally hung up on us. Oh no, maybe she's still there. Elizabeth will get you unmuted, Capit. I don't know if I can do it from here. No. Yeah, if you can unmute somehow, Elizabeth, kapihtatnan. It's there you go, Magwana. There it is. Elizabeth, kapihtawin. There it is. Kapihtatnan. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. You're on the air, Migots. Go ahead.
Okay,
kaya simo sa aming chat tagak mi instruhtago na Migots.
Oh, grazie. Maskikian may naktiya mo taman ki maskikim wasagan matam. Already, okay. Phenotypic, oh, jeez. Medicine. Pames, I grew up with that. My grandma raised me. Said that every makes stay in English. I'm sorry. And I realized a lot of good stuff out here, and the medicine, Métis people, they're not covered. Being married to Métis, come to see how expensive things are, and we're better in our own land. We have to go out and get stuff like that. Treatments, I used rat root. I never got a cold sore. I never got a sore once. I saw people from cancer treatments that and we have so much to know about it. Even our animals, we use oils and stuff like that. And one of the biggest reasons we lost this knowledge is the Catholic Church, because everything. So we need pure science and from getting in. There's plants growing out there. They only grow in the environment. We got lots of them. They're beautiful, but you can't have a yard or in your house or nothing. They want to log these areas and stuff. Be used for headaches and all sorts of stuff. You can't go to the store and that mint don't work. I tried it. It's the environment. It's connected. They take things out of their environment, eh? Other stuff, red willow, natural stuff. Stop bleeding right now. Balsam trees. There's so there's things that clean to my belief they would work for people who clean out, drugs and stuff like that, whatever, alcoholism. I open that topic and I've been all over the North, picked up a lot of knowledge from elsewhere, and plus what I remember and scooped the mind. So I'll stop back about all I want to say. I get really passionate when talking. I've used it to people. It seems like outsiders, white people, are really interested in stuff like that, but our own people would rather head to the pharmacy, and I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, that is good to hear today. Even during the pandemic, we were promoting that the traditional medicines that we have to keep our immunity, to keep our health up. That's what we were trying to promote, and I think that's what you're saying. It shouldn't stop. Depending on a prescription, may not be the best way if we can depend on our own resources in our community. Thanks for bringing that up.
I think we have better. There's survive with no doctor, no pharmacy, all those hundreds, who knows, thousands of years, we doctored ourselves up there using what we had in the bush, and it's still out there, a lot of that knowledge. Lots of it's on the east side too. I picked up lots on the east side, so in the north. So if we get together and talk about these things here, maybe we can share this knowledge and go somewhere with it.
No, that is good. That's great to hear from you, first of all, just to be part of this dialogue, but also the healing. If it's in our backyard, if it's something knowledge that's in our elders, maybe it should be in the curriculum of our schools, so they know the plants and medicines that are helpful for us. Your signal is a little bit weak, Elizabeth, so in the next couple of days as well, if there's any way you want to come and sit in again, maybe we'll have a better connection, but we're broadcasting it live. You'll be able to hear it on YouTube after we're done. But if you don't mind, this connection here, so
well, I'm sitting at the river, at the end of Beaver River, at our place here, me and Larry's place here. So that's where I'm calling from. I'll try to get closer to Starlink tomorrow.
Okay, Miasin, it was good.
All
thanks
right.
for that reminder of traditional medicine. So those of you take heed of that. We overlooked that in the first 2 days here, but keep that dialogue going. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We have Robert that's joined us. He's got his hand up. So Robert, if you come on in, introduce yourself.
Yeah, that's Rick. Pistawin.
Yeah.
Robert Melba, Pilot Cross.
Reminder of traditional medicine.
No,
you take heed of that. We overlooked that in the last. Elizabeth, if you can mute your phone, Elizabeth, you speak Pistawin, just mute your phone. There, that's perfect. There you go, Robert. Go ahead. Robert,
okay, yeah. There you go. Not when you got a good cross section of people, expressing a lot of important issues in the north. Guys and my pagamska when miyostaman pistaman natugigayo. But I think what we need to do is we need to establish some kind of a plan going forward because samstaheg muni to know as leaders, you know, nina what's standing on a hin, nina what's nagipikohtan na tugigo itistama. And I think that's where we go wrong. We shouldn't compete as leaders. We should join forces. We should, you know, look at the issues that are out here right now. You know, young people are struggling with identity, are struggling with language, struggling with culture, and yet, you know, our adult leaders are in turmoil with, you know, having to trying to reach a better destination for them, but in actuality, they're competing amongst each other, and they're defeating the whole issue of moving forward. You know, I think we need to have a coalition of people, a good cross section of people, looking at these issues and finding a solution as to, you know, what do we need? How do we need to convince government that the land is important to us, that we need the land continually to survive, because the land is what gave us what we are today, our language, our culture, and our beliefs and our medicines, you know. Those are the most important aspects of what we need to do in terms of moving forward. You know, a lot of people talked about the drugs. You know, how do we use cultural methods, ito? But, you know, back in the day, there was no fentanyl, there was no crystal meth, there was no cocaine, marijuana. You know, we didn't have all those things in our communities. So the cultural methods would not work today in terms of, you know, how we discipline our people back in the day. We need to revisit that whole aspect of cultural methods to understand, you know, how do we move forward with it? You know, back on the land is one thing that we're doing in Isle Cross here. We developed a cultural site in the South Bay War Veterans Park, where we take young people, we take elders there. You know, we do some snaring and fishing and whatever we can harvest off the land. Medicines, we have a worker that's dealing strictly with medicines, you know, to move that whole aspect of wellness. You know, we can't always run to the hospital to get medicated. We need to go back to our traditional ways and realize there's medicines out there that are going to help us. You know, we went as far as you know, through the Friendship Center organization, we developed supporting homes, transitional homes for people that are struggling, you know, with today's economy and all the things going on in our country. You know, it's hard for Aboriginal Indigenous people to survive. You know, it seems to be there's more challenges now rather than anything being fixed. So, you know, there's a lot of issues that are compounding who we are and what we are and how to move forward. You know, bistawawak Max and Tex, and you know, but we need to have those kind of people understand and work together as one to move forward, you know.
No, Robert, that's exactly what the purpose of this is, to bring our voices together. The pandemic experience kept us apart. Some gatherings are happening here and there, mostly in the summer, but people are at home right now. And if we use this technology that's been before us, you know, we have communications, FM. So we're using this technology to bring the message to us, to see where the status of our communities are. But as you said, how can we find solutions? So this is what it's all about. So to me, it's a beautiful thing to hear all these different voices, even Keegan's perspective on being on the land, just describing his own personal experience of of that happening is impactful. It adheres. So I got Joseph again. In closing today, Joseph, I don't know if I can get Wayne Sumaganis to join us for the thank you prayer in closing, but if we can call on you for our prayer at the end, just to give you a heads up, if that's okay with you. Right on. We have some other people that have joined us as well. There's a Chris online. I don't know if Chris wants to speak. Chris, I don't think it's Chris LaFontaine. That's a different link on here, but there's a Chris that's online. If you want to unmute, we can certainly give you the mic if you wish to share something.
Hey, Rick, this is Wayne Smagnus. I've been listening.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Joseph, I guess we have a dual purpose with the two pipe carriers here. So I'll ask both gentlemen to close off this afternoon, but Wayne, if you've been listening, Dan 16, how is your perspective on things that are transpiring, the discussions we've had, and maybe just what's in your heart, Igor?
Yeah, I've been listening, and there are so many topics where we struggle. There are so many things that we've lost control of. And it's right. A lot of people, I've heard them say, we need our own place in our own country. Like, we don't have land. We don't have our rights. We talk about interference from the Canadian government, and it is interference. And how do we get that back? I heard talk about Indian and Métis have to sit together again. And yes, you're right. Because Rick, I have documents that say that Indian and Métis both have treaty rights. I have those, and those are from Indian Affairs. But we need leadership to push that back to define our legal position with Canada. Like we can fight on the ground with our neighbor and with each other, but it's not right. We have to start making things right. All people together. But from our side, as Indigenous people of Canada, Indian and Métis, we have to get together. We have to be on the same page. I think back just a little while ago, a couple of days ago, former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney was buried. And I think back when they had Jim Sinclair speaking at the Premier's conference that Brian Mulroney hosted. And I listened to late Jim Sinclair talking, and then I was lucky enough to get to know that man and have many talks with him. And I visited him at his house, at his cabin before he passed away. And I was thinking, I went to the FSIN Assembly, and the FSIN Assembly had a motion on a resolution to oppose the bill in Ottawa that would recognize Métis governance. And, it was very ironic that I was driving by Jim Sinclair's residence when going to a meeting where we're going to take opposite sides. And I remember back then his speech to the premiers of Canada and all the people that were there. He didn't take a side. He tried to pull all Métis and Indian people together, and those are things that have been in existence for a long time, and we need to go back to that. We have to stop letting any government dictate to us who's our relative. The Creator gave us our relatives, and we're going to let money divide that. We're going to throw away our relatives for some money to have more than our relative. Our elders would be so ashamed that this is where we're at today. So we really do need to get together, and we got to put the clock aside. We have to quit looking at the clock and say, oh, I'm busy over here, I better go over there. No, you better get busy over here and, take back what's ours in this country. Not because out of greed or wanting to have more than others, but to make it right. So all the struggles that we're hearing, it's because we haven't learned, We've been colonized, we've been brainwashed. The cunning of the white man infects our mind, where we've thrown away our spiritual rights, our spiritual responsibilities to each other. So there's a lot to learn, but you only learn those things by listening to the elders and sitting with the elders and being guided by prayer, being guided by our spirituality, our sacred responsibilities to Mother Earth, to each other. These are the things that we have to get back to, because policies and legislations and laws that exist today, they existed because Canada wanted to do away with the Indians and wanted to take away our rights. So we can't expect to have them guide us back to a better place when they were only enacted to deny the Indian. So there was a lot that I heard today, and like I said, I was lucky that I was raised by elders that talked about these things. And I know there are many people today that don't have that luxury, that don't have that benefit of having spiritual, treaty-grounded elders to educate them. That we're educated in schools that talk about us, but they don't talk for us. And I commend the Métis for a lot of the things that they've done in Saskatchewan, where they've had agreements with educational institutions where it says that if you're going to talk about the Métis, that's not your right. Let us teach you what the Métis are. There should be nothing about us without us. That's the position that they've taken, and we need to do that ourselves as Indian people, where if they're going to teach anything about Indians in schools, we should be doing the teaching. We should be teaching the reality, the treaty reality, because everything we're taught is divide and conquer. So there's a lot there still for us, but the more we lose our elders, the more we lose that connection that kept us strong. Just remember, the first chiefs that signed treaty talked about forever. They were thinking about people way far down the road. It is their thinking at that day when they signed treaty that allows us to have a seat at the table today. And we can't sign that right away, that seat at the table for a few bucks, and ignore our children down the road. It was a sacred pledge. Kapastahon. It's committing a sin that will punish your children if you throw those away, if you lie to the Creator. I've talked about these things in many other places, and for me, that's the most important thing, is living up to our sacred rights, our sacred responsibilities to everybody around us, but most especially to your relative. So I'm really heartened to hear all the things that everybody is aware of. And like I said, when I said in my beginning opening prayer, that put all our thoughts together, because one person can't know everything, one person can't remember everything, but as a collective, as a united group effort, we will put everything on the table. We will deal with everything. And we can't wait for elected officials to start this. It has to come from within our households. Thank you.
Miasin, your perspective is always bang on, Chief. Your experiences in Treaty 6. We're up in Treaty 10 over here with a lot of unoccupied Crown land. The administration of that land falls under the NRTA, between provincial and federal agreements, but the treaties play an important role in that, and that's where we have to stand together to. That's the foundation of our country, is these treaties. So I guess we can't say enough. The more you can teach us about it. Okay, we've asked Joseph Fourier to say our thank you prayer for the day. We'll be closing off until tomorrow. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock again tomorrow. And we have Dr. Veronica McKinney will be joining us to give an update, and our medical health officers, our regular Wednesday updates on our status of health up here. But Joseph, I guess in your words, what you've heard today as well, and maybe a closing prayer, because I know you're at this time of the year, you got a heavy heart, but we're with you, buddy.
No, I heard a lot of really good things, and a lot of what is all over and it's not just one place. I've heard, how collectively that, we can have an impact on the things that are affecting our communities. I want to make myself available. I want to be part of the solution. I know, like you said, and I thank you, Rick, this is a heavy time for me. And Creator is amazing because he kind of knows exactly what you need when you need it, puts you where you need to be, I'm honored that you've given me the opportunity to say the thank you prayer for the day, for what we've heard, and thank for this day. Because I have to remember to be thankful. Even through all the hardship that I've endured as a father, I still need to be thankful. I need to be grateful, and I need to remember those things in my recovery. That's important. Because at the end of the day, if I don't look after me, then the work that we're trying to do, or the work I'm trying to do doesn't get done because I'm not healthy. So I heard lots today to reinforce what I'm doing, where I'm standing, and where Creator has put me. And for that, I just want to thank you, Creator, for this day. I want to thank you for everybody that's been on this panel, everybody that's shared. There's a lot of pain in our communities, Creator, and I know that collectively, with our hearts in the right place, that we can make those changes that we need to do. And I just want to ask Creator to bless each and every one of you as you go about your day today. Bless this forum, that at the end of it, that we may come with the solutions that you put in our hearts. I just thank you, Creator, for the breath in my lungs, the clothes that I get to wear, and the people that I get to meet. Just thank you for all the things that you've brought forth today, and let them resonate in our hearts and in our minds, so that we, over the next couple of days, can find solutions and be active in our community's well-being. Hey, Miigwech.
Aye.
Hey. Thank you, everyone. It's the clock on the wall is telling us it's a couple of minutes before 4, and it'll give us time to have our radio personnel switch over to their regular programming. But we want to reconvene again at 1 o'clock tomorrow. This is exactly what we anticipated. We wanted to hear from the people, from the elders, from the youth, from the men, from the women, but common voices. And it's beyond our borders as well. It's Manitoba, it's Labrador. And share this link. If you have a Zoom link and you think somebody is been waiting to share a story, or to share an idea, or to share a concern, or even a problem they've had with bureaucracy, if you wish, that we can sort of help out, maybe point our leaders towards policy issues. Public policy is what we get elected for, from the mayor's side, the MLA, the members of parliament, the chiefs, the councils, right down to the student councils in the schools. As we mentioned, union leaders as well. Our workers up north need to be spoken for, not only in collective bargaining, but their health needs, their recreational needs, their housing needs. So these are some of the issues that we want to see forward. These are indicators of health, as Candace Paul mentioned. Your employment status, your education status, your housing status. All these are indications of good health, and we want to address those issues if there's any way to help. And as we say goodbye to CFNK in Pine House, CILX in Alacrosse, and CIPI here in Beauval, we will reconvene tomorrow, and the river gathering will flow. See you later, David. Ego sepetama. Thank you for all.